On average, you will check your phone probably about 150 times today.
Oh, easily. Maybe more.
Right. And every single time you swipe that screen or, clear a quick alert, your brain is quietly but fundamentally rewriting what you actually value in life.
It really is. It's wild.
We live in this era where the immediate has just completely cannibalized the meaningful. So today's deep dive is all about why we are chemically addicted to feeling busy.
Yeah, and why that addiction is secretly just dismantling our ability to feel genuinely fulfilled.
Exactly. And we're anchoring this whole conversation on a really fascinating piece from Dr. Ira Bedzow, published in Psychology Today.
Right, the article's called Urgency Culture is Impeding Our Ability to Live Well.
Such a great title. But, we aren't just going to summarize the basic idea of being overworked. We really want to look under the hood at the neurological and psychological mechanisms keeping you trapped on this modern treadmill of constant notifications.
Yeah, we're going to explore how we've been conditioned to confuse mere activity with actual progress. Because treating everything as an emergency is secretly deciding your future for you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even talk about fixing the problem, we kind of need to understand why we're so biologically wired to respond to every single buzz and beep immediately.
Well, you really have to look at how these digital systems are engineered. They borrow heavily from variable ratio reinforcement.
That's the slot machine thing, right?
Exactly. It's the exact same behavioral principle that makes gambling so addictive. When your phone buzzes, you have no idea what the notification is.
Right. It could be like spam about a shoe sale or.
Or a life-changing career opportunity, or a text from your partner.
Yeah.
That uncertainty is the key.
So the brain is just waiting for the reveal.
Yeah, your brain releases this huge spike of dopamine, not just as a reward for checking, but in anticipation of the reward. You pull the lever to resolve the uncertainty.
It feels like we're playing a never-ending game of digital whack-a-mole.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
I mean, we get the immediate satisfaction of hitting the target, making the notification go away, but the game has no finish line. Are we literally mistaking the chemical rush of clearing a notification for, actual meaningful progress in our lives?
What's fascinating here is that the source actually compares us to hamsters in a lab.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, hitting a bar. We just keep speeding up, hitting the bar over and over just to get that quick dopamine hit.
Yeah.
We completely miss the forest for the trees because we're entirely focused on this digital paper pushing.
And it ruins real-life moments. You know that visceral feeling, right? You're in the middle of a face-to-face conversation with someone you care about.
And the phone vibrates.
Yes. And without even a conscious thought, you just sever that real-world connection to stare at a glowing piece of glass.
While the person in front of you is literally still talking.
It's awful. But reacting just feels so much better in the short term than actually reflecting on things.
Because urgency culture completely hijacks our natural desire to feel productive. You answer 30 emails before 9 in the morning, and you feel incredibly capable.
But those 30 emails probably didn't move the needle on anything that actually matters.
Right. Which leads us to the crucial difference between the urgent and the important.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we all kind of know this framework, right?
It's Eisenhower matrix, yeah.
Yeah. We intellectually know that an urgent matter, like a random Slack message, demands immediate action, it's clear, and it gives you a fleeting sense of completion.
Whereas important matters are the things that actually shape how we live.
Health, relationships, career trajectory.
Exactly. And those things are rarely clearly defined. They unfold slowly, and they almost never offer immediate satisfaction. In fact, they're usually pretty overwhelming.
So it's easy to say focus on the important, but I want to push back on this a little bit.
Yeah.
What happens when your boss literally marks an email urgent in all caps? I mean, is this urgency culture something we are actively doing to ourselves, or is it just entirely imposed on us by modern society and our workplaces?
It's definitely a mix of both, but here is the really insidious part. Urgent tasks are almost always the easier choice.
Because you don't have to think about them.
Precisely. They don't require deep reflection. When we prioritize immediate cues from our boss or our inbox, we're naturally postponing the intimidating, slow unfolding questions.
Like, am I even in the right career?
Right. Addressing important things often requires us to change direction, which is scary. The urgent email is a great excuse to not think about your life's direction.
I see. So it's a structural mandate, but we also kind of lean into it as a psychological defense mechanism.
Exactly. And physiologically, an urgent demand triggers a low-grade stress response. your body releases cortisol.
Because evolutionary-wise, urgency means a tiger is in the bushes.
Right. And your brain can't tell the difference between a predator and an angry email from accounting.
That is so true.
And that cortisol actually impairs your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for long-term planning. So you were neurologically blocked from focusing on the important stuff when you're in a state of chronic emergency.
Okay, so choosing the easy, urgent tasks over the ambiguous, important ones, it seems harmless enough on, like, a random Tuesday, right?
Sure, in isolation.
But what happens when that becomes the default setting for years?
That's where Dr. Bedzow introduces the concept of life grooves.
Life grooves.
Yeah. There are these rigid patterns we create by constantly reacting rather than reflecting.
It makes me think of, okay, imagine driving on a muddy dirt road right after a heavy rain.
Okay.
Previous cars have left these deep, massive ruts in the mud, and once your tires sink into one of those grooves, the car practically drives itself.
Oh, absolutely.
You could take your hands off the steering wheel, and the sheer walls of the rut just pull you forward. It requires zero cognitive load. But if you want to avoid a hazard or change direction steering out of it, requires a massive, jarring amount of effort.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is a perfect mechanical representation of what happens to our lives. Over time, these daily reactions deepen and solidify.
The mud ruts get deeper.
Exactly. And paths or choices that once felt entirely optional suddenly start to feel inevitable. Urgency culture quietly limits our freedom.
Because moving faster and faster just results in going nowhere, right? Or ending up somewhere you never intentionally chose to go.
You mistake velocity for direction.
Which this raises a really philosophical question based on the text. If we are just reacting to external stimuli all day long, is urgency culture essentially robbing us of our free will?
Well, getting out of a life groove isn't impossible. You haven't permanently lost your free will.
But it takes that jarring effort to yank the steering wheel.
Yes. It requires a tremendous amount of intentionality because our passive habits have already set the path. Your environment is designed to keep you moving, not to let you pull over and check the map.
So how do we pull over if we recognize that we are stuck in these muddy ruts? How do we steer out of them before our life is just completely decided for us?
The source argues that living well isn't about efficient responses. It's about cultivating habits that reflect the person you want to become.
Which requires time.
Exactly. The one thing urgency destroys is time for reflection. So practically speaking, Bedzow suggests practicing the intentional no to establish healthy boundaries.
Okay, so actually saying no to things.
Yeah, and beyond that, scheduling regular time to think rather than to do.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Because I can hear a practical pushback right now.
What's that?
If I literally block out time to think on my calendar, doesn't that just turn reflection into yet another urgent scheduled task for me to stress over? Like, oh no, it's 2 p.m., I need to reflect aggressively for an hour.
This raises an important question. The goal isn't to ignore your deadlines or blow off your responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's about taking back control of the steering wheel. Initially, sitting in that scheduled block of reflection time is going to feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Because of the dopamine withdrawal.
Exactly. You're denying your brain those rapid-fire completions, but you're creating a deliberate pause between receiving a request and responding to it.
Ah, so instead of letting the action bias dictate a 3-second response, you force a delay.
Yes. You stop treating every single demand as equally significant. You also need to create device-free moments and proactively plan for non-urgent but vital things.
Like exercise or maintaining friendships or professional growth.
Right, because if you don't schedule them, the urgent demands of the day will operate like a gas expanding to fill a container. Circumstance will just strip those important things away.
So true. We really covered a lot of ground today. We looked at the dopamine trap, how we prioritize the urgent over the important, and how these daily micro decisions calcify into those rigid life grooves.
It really is a profound shift in perspective.
And Dr. Bedzow's article leaves us with this really powerful closing argument to wrap things up.
Yeah, he points out that while the decision of how to spend a single Tuesday afternoon might seem totally trivial.
Like choosing to clear your inbox instead of taking a walk to think.
Exactly. In a vacuum, it doesn't matter. But the repeated pattern of our afternoons literally shapes who we become.
They are the sum of our afternoons.
We really are.
So to everyone listening, we want to leave you with a final thought to kind of mull over today. Imagine if every single notification on your devices suddenly disappeared tomorrow.
Just completely broke.
Yeah, no emails, no texts, no one demanding anything of you. What would you actually choose to do with your first truly quiet afternoon.
That's a great question.
Would that silence feel liberating to you? Or, if you really think about it, would it terrify you?